Hi, my name is Jana Waters and I'm a certified Enneagram coach and I live in Littleton, Colorado. Today I'm going to be giving you a description of types 7, 8, and 9. And I think it's a really important thing to know a little bit about each of the numbers when you're learning about the Enneagram, because that helps you to understand when someone else is talking to you and saying, I'm a 7, you know maybe some of the attributes of their strengths, but then also things that they might be struggling with, and helps us to grow in empathy and understanding and connection with each other. So today I'm going to start out talking about the type 7, who is called the entertaining optimist or the enthusiast. And two words that you could use to describe the 7 are joy and abundance. Joy and abundance are all around a 7. Their core fear is being deprived, trapped in emotional pain, limited, bored, missing out on something exciting. The term FOMO, I think, was invented by a 7, the fear of missing out. They do not want to miss out on fun things. Their core desire is to be happy, satisfied, and content. And their self-image is that they're creative, fun, visionaries, imaginative, stylish, playful, inspirational, sociable, optimistic, spontaneous, and can even be the life of the party. So 7s are in the head triad. So remember we talked about that there's our centers of intelligence. There's the head, the heart, and the gut. And each type will land in one of those triads as having an imbalance. And for the 7, they are in the head triad, and they have may have an emotional struggle with anxiety, and their focus of attention is on security. They can overuse their thinking by constantly thinking about future events. Like they're always thinking about what's the next fun thing, what's the next fun thing. And so that's how the thinking can get imbalanced for them. Their orientation to time is the future, which isn't a surprise, being that they're always trying to think about the next fun thing. And they're in the aggressive stance. Their passion or weakness is gluttony, which is an insatiable desire to fill oneself up with experiences where it's never quite enough. And then they would use that to avoid any painful feelings. And gluttony, I love for everyone to try to think, anytime you hear a word that's a defense mechanism or the weakness or even a strength, sometimes it's like a big way it plays out in our lives, but a lot of times it's like in the little nuances of life where we find our weaknesses popping up. So gluttony isn't necessarily eating a whole bucket of ice cream, but it's more a attitude of it's not enough. I got to keep going. I need more. The defense mechanism that they have is called rationalization, and they are avoiding their own real intentions, motivations, and how their behavior impacts others by using rationalization to cover up unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. They are very good at reframing any situation to make it not seem so bad. 7s are joyful and fun, energizing people to be around. They're great leaders. They bring life to any situation, and they like to keep things upbeat. They're always looking for the next fun thing, and may have multiple options for a plan for the evening, and they'll keep them going until they can tell which one will probably be the most fun, and then they'll say, oh, sorry, I can't come to that, and head off to the thing that looks like the most fun and exciting to them. Their core longing is to be taken care of. And some of their relationship pitfalls that a 7 can experience is they can be over talkative, and so there isn't space for other people to share their thoughts or ideas. Or they may become impatient with others because they go at other people they consider go at a slower pace and are kind of dragging them down. And they falsely believe at times that others will not be there for them when they need them. How to get along with the 7 is to be positive and encourage them, give them your affection, but also give them freedom. They don't like to feel like they're trapped in an emotional pain or something that's boring. They really enjoy companionship and love it when you join with them in a stimulating conversation or laughter or fun and spontaneous activities, going new places. They love to have people join them in that. So that's the 7. The 8 is called the commander or the challenger, and two words to describe the 8 are power and protection. Their core fear is being weak, vulnerable, powerless, harmed, controlled, manipulated, or at being at the mercy of injustice. They do not want to be abandoned. Their core desire is to protect oneself or themselves and be in control of their own destiny. Their self-image is that they're outspoken, direct, opinionated, bold, decisive, tough, compassionate. They have like kind of that teddy bear on the inside heart that is very loving and kind. If they've taken a liking to you. And they're honest and blunt, independent, make their own decisions, control their own lives and outcomes. They have a can-do attitude and a strong inner drive, and they're full of common sense. They are in the gut triad, and they may have an emotional struggle with anger, and they have a focus for justice. So the way an anger for an 8 would probably play out is a much more the kind of anger that's right at the surface, that is let out easily and then is let go of easily. So they're different than, let's say, the 9, who is asleep to their anger and then doesn't realize it, and then ends up being kind of passive aggressive when they finally realize their anger. So angry. And then the 1 is their anger shows up more like resentment. So each of these emotions that the triads struggle with manifest differently depending upon what the type is. But for the 8, the anger is much more like, I guess you could say like a one and done, like you have the anger and then it's over and you're on to the next thing. Their orientation to time is the future, and they're in the aggressive stance. So their passion or weakness is lust or excess, and it's a constant need for intensity, control, self-extension. They're wanting to push forward and assert themselves willfully. So in excess, like if they're exercisers, they, some people would feel like an hour is plenty. Well, 8 probably would do 2 hours. Or 1 piece of pie is good. Well, let's just eat the whole pie. So they can have, really a longing for just like a stimulating, intense experiences. Their defense mechanism is denial. They deny any weaknesses. They view themselves as invincible and capable, and to confidently control their lives. So they deny any of their hurtful behaviors that they've had towards other people. I've heard that 8 described as a snowplow. So we live in Colorado, and if a snowplow comes down our street, that it gives us an opportunity. They push the snow away and gives us an opportunity to get out and get to where we need to go. And that's kind of what an 8 is like. An 8 is a powerful force that if you are one of their people and they love you, they will protect you and use their strength to care for the people that are important to them. But if you are opposing them, or you are someone who isn't just, they would want to just run you over like a snowplow would. So it's kind of just a funny analogy, but it kind of shows the strength of an 8. Their relationship pitfalls can be that they can lose their temper and go into a rage, and they can intensely push at a person to get an authentic response. They don't like platitudes. They want things to be straightforward. They can be possessive and jealous, and if hurt, they can withdraw and actually even cut you off emotionally, or cut you out of their life. Their core longing is to not be betrayed. And how to get along with an 8 is, first of all, be strong and stand up for yourself. And they need to know that you will not betray them. If they've given you their trust, then to gossip or do anything that would compromise the trust that they've given you, that would be a very painful thing for an 8. So try not to do that. Try to really respect that if they've given you an into their life, try to respect that. Okay, so for a 9, the 9 is called the peaceful mediator or the peacemaker. And 2 words to describe a 9 would be peace and oneness. So the core fear of a 9 is being in conflict, loveless, shut out, discordant, overlooked, disconnected, inharmonious, and unimportant. Their core desire is to have inner stability and peace of mind, and they spend a good amount of time trying to get that harmony going in all aspects of their lives. They're peaceful. The way they view themselves is peaceful, relaxed, flexible, agreeable, They want to avoid tension, create harmony. They can merge with other people so that to avoid conflict. And they're non-judgmental and open to others. They're patient, steady, enduring, and kind. A lot of people who are 9s have a hard time figuring out their number on the Enneagram because they can relate so easily to all the numbers and say, oh, I can see a little bit of this and a little bit of that. They are in the gut triad, and so their emotional struggle will be with anger, and their focus will be on justice. And like I had said before, when we were talking about anger for the 8, the anger for the 9 is different in the sense that a lot of times they don't even realize they're angry. So they will have tendencies towards passive aggressiveness. Okay, then the defense mechanism is called narcotization, and this is when the 9 will engage in activities that bring them comfort. So, I mean, like the word says, narcotization could be something as much, alcohol or drugs, but it's also other things that can be soothing, like long bike rides or long runs or watching the same TV show series over and over again. Anything that's familiar and comforting, that would be narcotization. And a lot of the things that I shared, like going for long runs and bike rides and even watching television a bit, those things in and of themselves are not a problem. And you'll find that with all of the defense mechanisms, when they start becoming a defense mechanism is when the person is using them to avoid what they really need to be dealing with, whether that's a painful emotion or a task at hand that needs to be handled. All right, so now we're gonna flip over. Let's see here. So some of the relational pitfalls that a 9 can experience are they agree to things with no intention of actually following through on them. And instead of dealing with issues, they may emotionally withdraw and just wait for it to pass instead of handling a situation. And they can be just agreeable just to avoid conflict. And that's where their sloth tendency comes into play. That's back, I missed that actually. It's supposed to be back up by when we were talking about the anger triad and the defense mechanisms. But so back to the passion or weakness of a 9 is sloth or laziness. And that does not necessarily have to do with physical laziness. It could be, but it is more of a desire to be unaffected by life. And so an unwillingness to be fully awake to themselves, like our desires, needs, abilities, to bring whole self into a situation. So that's another one of those times where that word, you think of one thing, you think of laziness, well, they must just sit around and watch a lot of TV. Well, that might be it, but more often in a 9's life, it'll show up in not bringing their full presence into a situation and really engaging and thinking through the steps and the process of things. Okay, but back to the relational pitfalls. So that was the being agreeable to avoid conflict is a way that sloth could play out too, because they don't want to have to deal with the conflict, so it's just easier just to merge with the other person. Ways to get along, the core longing of a 9 is your presence matters. And so they're really wanting to know that they're making a difference in the world. How to get along with a 9 is to show them that you're listening to them by asking questions and maybe even rewarding what they've said. It's often unclear to a 9 what they actually need and want, and so they appreciate help discovering those things about themselves. And if you're in a conflict with a 9 really appreciates it if you speak gently, because that's their core fear, is to be in disharmony with others and their situation. And so when you're in a conflict, you're kind of right in their space that is the most uncomfortable space for them. So that is the type 9, the peacemaker. And so on this video, we listened to 7, 8, and 9. Thanks so much.